And welcome back to the Survivor PA Season 4 review recap. As always, it's me, Coach Drew, joined by Julia. And today we have our actual boot from the episode. We have Tyler joining us. And I was telling Tyler before we went live, the other two players that we've had so far in the season, they were only asking because there was going to be their boot episode and it didn't happen. So when Tyler asked, I'm like, oh, well, it's fine because he's obviously not going home this episode. And then he did. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. I wish the trickery I did with you with being on this guest worked on in Pennsylvania, but it didn't transfer that way. So at least I got this.
Julia, as Tyler is your boy, before we talk about everything that happened in the episode, what has been some of the things about his game that has like drawn you towards him?
In TV. Those are the two words I have to say. We were chit-chatting a bit before I came on. These LRGs, as well produced as they are not for $1 million. They're incredible. They're fantastic. They're not for $1 million. You're going to get a little bit of prize money. If you win, you're going to go home. So I feel like if you're not going out there and you're not doing the damn things, saying the damn things, doing what you think you need to, you're wasting your time. And Tyler gave me everything that I needed when he was on my screen.
So much so that when we start the episode, we basically just pick up for the last, we basically get shown the end of last episode again. And I think that at this moment, I wrote down in my notes, I'm like, is this going to be like the Rome boot from 46 or 47, where it's like, okay, we all know what's about to happen. We're just trying to figure out how we get to this point, because it starts off with Tyler giving his speech directly or right after the vote. Tyler, for you, now that you've had some time to watch and in the moment, did you always plan on giving that speech right after the vote was done? Was that based off of impulse or?
I that's in the old Tyler Rolodex. I've done that before. I have a few theories on like why I like to do speeches like that, especially at that point. I think when someone has like a perception of being a chaotic player, or which people have said about me, or a player is a threat, it's really good if everyone knows who their enemies are, right? And that was a huge motivation, because there's like this chaos around me, because I know in my past, I've struggled to get to the finals because I was perceived too much as a final tribal threat. I was like, okay, this will leave a negative taste in people's mouth. It will be very clear who I'm against. So it's like, okay, like, look, I've burnt the bridge with Capo Greens. And then hopefully like the people in the pink, it's like, okay, well, like, Tyler's this constant that we can rely on. However, I completely misjudged of how traumatic my speech was. And, the trauma reigned from the camp that eventually lit off my torch. So here we are.
I mean, we start the episode, we get two differing arguments, I guess, on their perception of your speech. So we have Jabbar, for now. We have Jabbar, who is very upset and continues to make it known the entire episode how upset and how he felt like it was condescending.
Ravage is back.
We'll get to Ravage later. And then we also have J-Mac, who their entire narrative this episode is, well, yeah, Tyler did that, but Tyler's a great shield for me because everyone's constantly looking at Tyler as this, and, I can kind of just chill. And obviously, as the episode progresses, we kind of see a little bit of a change, but we have a lot of content between the three of you this episode. And I think it led to it definitely helped with the narrative for the episode. If the episode is going to be all about Tyler going home, we need to figure out how we got to that point. We need to hear arguments from the people that are most vocal on both sides, if that makes sense. Besides Jabbar, did anyone else come up to you and straight up say, hey, what was that all about?
Oh, yeah, there's a few people who came up to me and whined to me about it. To put it lightly, I think, of course, like people, they're like, they'd want to know why it happened, or they wanted to know, like like, like, hey, can we still, like, a lot of people on Drain 2 like, hey, I still want like a working relationship with you too. Like, I still think you're a good guy because, everyone's playing the social game still. So, yeah, but it was very clear to me that Jabbar was the most upset about the speech, and Jordan too seemed very, like, he seemed peeved. I could tell. Yeah.
Well, and as you were doing it, and I guess when they showed it, so obviously the first thing that popped in my mind was Peter, because we sat there episode 1 or 2, where he has this moment, and I remember sitting there thinking, "Oh man, what are you doing?" And then last week when you did it, I don't like it. Probably set off something in my head, but like rewatching it again, it's like, "Oh no, what are you doing?" But like I said before we went on the air, you explained why you did it, and I felt like even though I disagreed with it personally, it made sense that you explained well why you would do that in that situation, and that is something that you did all season.
Yeah, you were always coming from, no matter how chaotic or your outburst, whatever it was, you were always coming from a logical point. You always had a point, you knew what you wanted to say going in, and you said it. The big difference, like you were saying, between you and Peter is you knew what you wanted to say. It was pointed, it was rooted in game logic. His was rooted in paranoia.
Yeah, like so I hope my fellow cast members would attest to this. It's not like, I'd make that speech and then that's how I'm talking to everyone all the time at camp. When Peter was outburst, that was Peter all the time, right? There wasn't like, oh, this isn't the real Peter we've seen. How could Peter say something like this? I'm so surprised he'd say this. It was like, yeah, no, that's pretty classic Pete. So, I didn't feel that. And like, that night we all like, we had another night and everything was pretty like copacetic and like we were like all friendly and stuff like that. So it didn't like rain into this tremor over the next day. And truthfully, watching the episodes too, I am a bit curious, and this could be post hoc, but it seems like people wanted to flip on me like prior to that speech anyways. Like Rabaj and Jordan were already indicating that they wanted to flip, and specifically on me before. So I am a bit more, since I've seen this, I'm a bit more hesitant of how much of a catalyst that actually was. But obviously it was a mistake and it did not help.
So you, both of you all brought up Rabaj. We can go ahead and, so we're introduced to Rabaj this episode.
Yeah.
And it's, and in his own words, just he wasn't going to be the social nice guy anymore. He was going to he's going to flip a switch and be this other person. And it really felt like the same guy, except for we were just getting more content of him burying you. Like it was every conversation that we watched him have. It was like, hey, yeah, the Tyler thing. The Tyler is going to keep putting that dirt on you so that people know where he is coming from. And I think that also set off a switch for later in the episode with him winning the immunity. For you, just in those last 2 hours before tribal or before the challenge, and did you see was Jabbar acting differently to you, or was he basically being the same and you just found out about it watching this?
I think that Jabbar had that energy from my eyes since the merge began. It seemed clear that he didn't feel comfortable that he didn't feel comfortable in the 6, right? And that's why the previous one where Ben was voted off, I was like, no, guys, let's let Rabaj Jabbar make the decision. He wasn't there yet. Rabaj wasn't there yet. I was like, let's let Jabbar make the decision, right? Like, let's make him feel like he's a part of the group. And because he, like, in my mind, he was, but like sometimes even when you're part of the group, people don't feel like they're part of the car. It's like, let's see what he wants to do. So it didn't really change with me. And I felt that he had very little love for Ralit. That got into that tribal.
Is that a nice alter ego where you sing Kumbaya at tribal council?
That's like, Ralit is like when I'm like just hanging out by the fire at camp and like, doing other things. And then when, the camera's on, Tyler comes out.
So, and I do want to talk about that before we move on to the challenge. Because we have both talked a lot about you in this game. You've been one of the main characters of the season. How much of that was TV character and how much of that was real? Is it just you turned up to 11, or is it just you a totally different persona?
Yeah, so like this is how like I think it is. It's surely like me like turned up a bit. And I think that like this, and this is like advice I give to all future LRG players. When you are out there, you are also putting on a show. And yes, you can try to win, you can try to do these things, but it's okay if you don't. But like when you're in the confessional and they'll ask you things like how safe do you feel tonight? And if you've been on production or you've been a player, you know people say, well, I feel like I'm 74% safe tonight. I do think that there's a thing like, no, shut up. If you feel like you're like 75% safe, just say you feel 100% safe. It's not a huge difference really. And you're just like conveying a message in the story that you feel confident, right? Similar with like, if you don't really like someone on the show, if you just like, they're not your favorite, say you don't like them. Say you hate them. Like the word, like there's really, I think, not a huge amount of differences between those words. Like hate just means you really don't like them, right? Like it's just one step more. It doesn't mean you want anything bad to happen to them. So I just say like, yeah, just turn up the adjectives a bit, right? And again, and I'd like to think I didn't make any personal comments about anyone throughout the game. It was all to do with the game or how I like just felt about them. So I think, yeah, totally, just do that. I did that all the time, of course.
Well, and it's funny because people will do people do confessionals. And you can sometimes tell they're being scared of talking to the confessional because they don't want that to be the confessional where it's like, oh yeah, I feel safe, only for them to get voted out that episode.
Yeah.
I feel like people have that in their minds.
They do.
Answer a question like that. It's like, oh yeah. So that way I don't look stupid if I get voted out in the same episode that I said I'm 100% safe.
Yeah, exactly. But it's okay to look stupid, right?
I look stupid, yes.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Yeah.
So going into the immunity challenge, did you? Besides, I want to win. Did you feel like, nah, I should probably win this one because of, people confronting me about what happened at Tribal, or did you feel like, okay, like I should still probably be fine?
I definitely felt nervous, but I wouldn't say I felt like it was a do or die situation. Like, I was like, okay, like obviously when you do a big commotion, it'd be very nice to have that security, but I wasn't like in this like do or die fight or flight situation at all.
Okay, and before that, your relationship with J-Mac, which I feel like has been shown pretty heavily, especially the last two episodes, but specifically in this one, we've talked about it. From your perspective, where was J-Mac for you?
So like I feel like my relationship to J-Mac was similar to a lot of people. So I feel like J-Mac has like this Nietzschean quality, right? Like there's just this like awesome person. They're strong, incredibly intelligent professor, like good looking, and it's like everyone's just drawn to them, right? So like everyone fed off that Nietzschean quality the entire season, and I was no stranger to that. I think something that J-Mac and I had in common in sense is that like I feel like a lot of people would lean on J-Mac for emotional support. And I don't think I ever did. I think J-Mac and I were very like friendly, like we're buddies, we're friends. Like J-Mac was my closest ally. And I like to think I was one of her closest allies. But it was just very fun. And I would be like, try to be even keel. I remember there's one tribal where she's talking where she's like, I'm paranoid. And I'm like, look, we got this. Don't worry. Like, let's not be paranoid. We're doing well. So J-Mac told me from day one that I want to use you as a meat shield. And I was like, yeah, it makes total sense for you. I'm totally glad to be your meat shield. And then go through the season together. And I was very happy to continue to do that with J-Mac had I survived the tribal. I said in my last confessional, or like in the previous episode, I feel like these people don't really like me. I'm not really getting along with a lot of them. I don't think I can win. I don't think I had any winning equity in that season. I actually don't think at the merge there's any final three configuration where I win. So that's just even more incentive to me. It's like, look, if you're loyal and cool to me, I will do my best to make sure you're, at least there with me and you can win. I'm not going to screw you. Like if I think I have no chance. Yeah, exactly, J-Mac. And I'm not going to screw over like your chances for like, a 0.01% chance of doing better. That's just not how I play.
Yeah, you basically slingshot.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
But that's why it also felt like a very short-sighted move to flip on you in that moment, because we knew it was bound to happen. We've been building it for episodes. Old Luigi was bound to split apart. But you had made yourself, throughout the game, such an unlikable person to everyone else. And I say that with such kindness and love in my heart.
Okay.
That especially when the rest of your allies are such monster threats. It felt like such a great opportunity to be able to take out one of them and leave you in the game.
Yeah, I mean that's what I thought. They didn't agree, right? They just didn't feel that way. I do think that and to add on to the unlikability, like that, I am hamming it up a bit, but that truly is just my personality. Like that's who I am, right? And people aren't always going to like me. I've played seasons where people really like me, and I've played seasons where people really do not like me, and that's totally okay. And I'm not saying because I didn't get along with this group, it means that they're bad or anything. It's just not my cast. I think Camilla said it in the previous episode of Survivor 48. She's like, this isn't my group. Like, these aren't my people. Like, and that's kind of how it felt. I felt really good with J-Mac and Emily, but everyone else I felt very alien to. And I thought, well, at least if I'm this kind of like solidly loyal, quote unquote, goat, perhaps people can bring me along. But in addition to that, though, and I think like what Jabbar said it too, he said that he did think I could win. I don't know if I agree with him, but I think that in these games, in LRGs specifically, especially when you might have seen people before or they have reputations, I think a lot of people get in their head, and I've done it before too, and I think most people who are honest would admit this, there's someone in that game that they have to beat them. They can't let that person get one over on them. They can't lose to them. They can't be voted out by that person. And I think, too, there's a number of people in this season, they could not get a lower placement than me. They could not let me beat them. I think Peter had that against me from the very beginning. He did not want me to think that I would get one over on him. So I think when you have that, and if people have that target on you, it puts you in a really tough spot. And I think some people probably had that on me, and it, didn't end well.
So we get to the challenge, and it's starting to get dark at this point. For you, so when you guys get there, do you have any idea, is Tribal going to be there tonight, or is Tribal going to be in the morning, or do they? Because I know you guys, after the challenge is over, you guys are say hey, we're doing it when. How much information are they giving you as that day starts to wrap up?
You can kind of the truth is, I don't think they're giving us any information, but you can tell by how the production's acting, if they're moving around and stuff. I think we were a little surprised there was a challenge that night, but we were all incredibly certain there was going to be no Tribal or anything like that. It seemed like the end of the day. We said the merge. Now we've had a second vote at the merge. It felt like, okay, I think this is it. So the challenge might have been a bit of a surprise, but we knew we'd have another night.
We end up with Jabbar versus Ethan.
Yes.
Final. And, I think this is the 8th episode in a row that we've gotten some type of Jabbar side-eye, and it just happened to be that we got Jabbar side-eye during an endurance challenge. And Jabbar...
Kind of showboaty, isn't it?
You wouldn't know anything about that.
No, I wouldn't know anything about
showboaty. But Jabbar wins and chooses relationships. So, for you, these extra twists this season, were you about them? Were you kind of I'll let everyone else kind of deal with that, or how did you feel about those?
Did I personally like them, or was I No, I don't like twists.
I hate twists too. Cheers.
I don't look. I think Daniel put on a fantastic game. And I think no other, and I don't want to disparage the other ones because that happens in every LRG, but the way he maintains a theme throughout a season, I think is on par, if not surpasses CBS. So I think what he does is brilliant. I'm just personally not a twist guy. I really like the purest version of the game. I think that when there's a lot of twists, it actually predicts people to play safer. I think when there's an amulet every round, it's well, why would I flip if in next round you get some amulet that says, oh, you're just going to vote someone out for free now? I have no idea what's going to happen. So I think more twists. There you go. You have it there first. I think more twists kind of try to enforce more safe gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, we both slurped, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but whatever. We both slurped Daniel and as far as the production quality of the season, the twists that I've had, and as someone who hates twists, I've enjoyed most of the twists that he has introduced, knowing full well that if I was out there, I would hate all the twists that were out there. But as an audience member, they've somehow found a way to make the twists fun and not
Yeah.
not overly take over the game.
Yeah, they weren't overpowered. Like I never once felt like this is too unfair. How could this be? I was like, okay, this is just something that we have to consider. There wasn't like, at least to that point, oh, they have a super idol that will take them to the final 3. I was like, oh, okay. So they didn't have any of that stuff. So I was pretty happy.
So we get back to camp, and and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but like I don't hear Ethan's name at all during all of this. Like it's Ethan's name kind of came out of nowhere at Tribal, but like here it is basically just Tyler. And this is where I wrote the note. Oh yeah, this kind of seems like the Rome boot episode where it's like, hey, they're telling us we're not going to try to hide it. This is what's going to be, and this is everyone's thinking behind it. They are. We do hear a conversation about Kayla. So for you, being out there, because we love Kayla here. I think I have her as a very likable Gabe from Marquesas, where it's like, oh yeah, she's
great reference.
That's incredible. I need to start dropping.
She is out there for the society aspect. She doesn't want to do the strategizing and all that, but Kayla is so likable and still does well at challenges. And Gabe sucked. What was your relationship, if there even was one? Because I know that there was I know that she had thrown that vote on you that last round. Kayla
wasn't a Tyler fan either. She fit in with the cast. She was not about me. So at the end actually we did kind of get along. And that's why I think partially she didn't vote for me in the last round. But during the challenge where you had to hold your arm up and press against the plate, there was no rules against okay, you couldn't kind of hold the rim. And that's not an issue for most people, but I'm a taller guy, and so certain proportions will be a bit larger. So I was able to hold the plates a lot easier. And eventually that was said, hey, you can't do that actually. But that was very unfair to Kayla. And since then, she put a mark on me. Didn't like me very much. But no, we had that night, part of my damage control, I stayed up essentially the whole night, and I would help tend the fire, and I'd have long conversations with Kayla, and I had long personal conversations about the game. I talked with Jordan, Emily, other people from the other tribe I don't remember now, but those were actually the rules. Yeah, okay. Well, you know what? Let's rewind the time, go back, and play the game again. Wow, good point.
Blame Daniel.
Yeah, blame Daniel. But so that's that's what happened. So I think Kayla and Off ended in a good relationship. But I like Kayla. I think she's fine. I didn't like her rice that she cooked, but other than that, it's good.
Oh, I mean, I said last week I think she would be great for a challenge LRG because there's really no type of. I mean, there's social aspect, voting aspect, kind of, but not really. And she's shown that she does well in these LRG challenges. She just hates the other aspects of it, and everyone, it's so out in the open now that that's basically all the Kayla content that we get in this episode. So you already kind of brought this up, but so that night after the challenge is over, is anyone sleeping?
Yeah, a lot of people, it seemed like a lot of people take turns sleeping. A bunch of people sleeping, and then some people are just chilling by the fire. Others sleep better than others. It's just kind of how it goes out there. I am someone who doesn't sleep very well out there, so I was just up chilling by the fire, and I would chat with anyone who come by the fire. And I wouldn't really just talk about game. I would just talk about my personal life. Kayla slept on the picnic. Yeah, she did sleep on the picnic table. I would just talk about my personal life with them, hoping that maybe they'll start to like me soon if they know the real me. But it didn't happen.
So do you think that's the reason that Kayla didn't vote you the next, jumping?
It's so hard to know, right? And I would hate to make any sort of prediction like that. But I would guess it has a factor, right? I don't know why she would, after I make that speech, unless maybe she was the only one who's moved positively by it. I don't know why she would change her mind or anything.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to assume, especially because all we've seen from Kayla is, I don't understand the strategy of the game, and I don't care to understand the strategy. I'm going to vote for who I want to vote for and who I think deserves to go. And I think someone who would value those conversations for sure.
we get J-Mac again talking about how as much as they don't want Tyler to go, their name's been kind of put out there a lot, and they don't want to fight too hard to save Tyler in this type of situation. Did J-Mac or anybody else allude or straight up tell you like, hey, your ass is on the line here, or did you go in completely blind?
I went in completely blind, Coach. No, J-Mac did not tell me, but like it was truly, I think, like last minute for them, or like it just didn't make sense to them. I didn't blame J-Mac at all for not letting me know. I knew that she ultimately had my back. I did find it odd that they didn't tell Emily. That I found weird, but
guess we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
So we get to Tribal, and Jabbar's power is he can give immunity to someone else.
Yeah.
He accuses Liz. For you, go ahead, Lily.
Which is so interesting, given when Jabbar was on a couple weeks ago, it seemed like him and Liz had a very rocky relationship.
I thought it was very funny too that he, just based off of what we knew going to that he gave it to Liz, and I'm curious to see where that, I guess, that disconnect happens as the season progresses.
Well, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
Well, what was shocking about that, and what you didn't see, is that obviously it's not like Jabbar and Jordan and J-Mac and Lydia told me they were voting me. They told me they were voting Ethan. But the idea was that we were going to tell Ethan we're voting Liz, right? Just in case for idols or something like that. So when he gave Liz the thing, I was like, shit, I'm in trouble. And I think that's what also, like, because I also had something in my pocket just to spook them out. And I think that's what also made Ethan nervous, right? Yeah. Ethan, like, oh, they didn't go with the plan. Something's changing. So, that was a shocking moment for me.
So how long had that been in your pocket? Like, especially
that night, that day I put it in.
Okay. That day. Because we don't hear or see anything about it. At least I don't remember that until Ethan goes to vote. And I'm like, wait, what? Did I totally just black out during? Yeah.
I mean, it was so small. I'm surprised it tricked anyone. I mean, I guess it tricked Ethan.
Like watching him sit up there at the voting booth is like, wow, okay, maybe I am reading this entire thing wrong. Maybe Tyler does pull something out and production just hit it so well that they want to catch all of us off guard.
Would have been a great moment, but
it would have been. And the music cue that I was like, oh my god, like this.
I was expecting a flashback at that moment. I was expecting a flashback, Amanda Kimmel style.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry to say it didn't happen. I felt like, you've compared like the boot to Rome. I felt it was much more akin to Roger Sexton.
That's what I was going to say.
R.I.P. Server Amazon. So if we're going to do old school references, it seems like this is like a changing point in the game. Everyone's on board and getting rid of this nasty, nasty man. And I just happen to be the Roger Sexton of it all. So, there's really no suspense, but I guess for the viewer in that sense. But I'm glad to be a part of it, right? I liked Roger.
Did you? You liked
Roger? I liked Roger. Yes, I thought he was a good character, right? I think, but I'm biased. I love everyone from the first 8 seasons. I think there's
Don't worry, we do too. It's my favorite season is Africa. If it makes you
feel Africa's really one of my top 5. Yeah, right. So I think that was. Yeah, so I'm happy to be there. I'm happy to do Roger Sexton of the season. It brings the story along.
Okay, so you're not voting for a woman if they make to the end. I'm just playing.
That was speculation.
I'm kidding. So you go out and actually we have the I'll call it a cute little moment where you start philosophizing.
Yeah.
So you were doing that a lot around camp? Was that like your storyline that was missing out in the edit?
So pretty much every time I would do a confessional, they'd be like, okay, what would a philosopher say in this moment, right? So I was very much primed. I was very much primed to do that. But I would talk I love philosophy. I studied philosophy. It's like a part of my personality. So like I would talk about it a lot. Lydia said like, Tyler tends to monologue. I like to think of it as I just have a lot of interesting things to say. But like that was like a cute moment. And then Emily said something about like me talking about like, eating a part of your body. What part would you eat? No, the question was, is cannibal ethical if it is your own body and it's through lab-grown meat? That was the question.
You're fly on the wall.
Exactly. To be a fly on the tree, that was Quagmire Camp. There you go.
I mean, honestly, if that I feel like that's the type of content that would not even content, like being out there. Those are the types of conversations that I would love to have with some. Like those are the types of fun conversations that I enjoy having out there. It doesn't have to be all strategy and all that, but like if someone asked me that on a tribe, I'm like, I think I love this person.
Yeah, it's not my cast, and but like when I was sitting there at Tribal 2, that was also me making like kind of a last play, a man-sized bean or a bean-sized man. Yeah, just like that. When I was making the point of the philosopher of like Karl Popper and like you can't predict the future. Like that was kind of like an argument I was making. It's like people think like, okay, let's flip it, like, the final 10. To me, that's absurd, right? Like, especially with a game with like amulets in them. It's like, you just can't predict what's going to happen. And also like, there's the issues. It's like, I feel once you flip on one person, it's fair game for everyone, right? You've broken that like meta or that paradigm of the game. And it's really hard to put it back. And I just felt like, people always say, oh, get one up in the bottom, but there's always going to be a 6th place. There's always going to be a 5th place. And sometimes you just got to go the more conservative route.
I mean, you brought it up last week. Probably my favorite confessional you had all season was you saying, hey, I think it's crazy for us to do anything other than what we are doing right now. Because we have, like, you had your core, in that group. Why would we stray away? Why specifically would I stray away from this when I'm in a decent position in this group? I feel like a lot of people play to TV audience. We've talked about it already. People like to play to TV audiences like, oh, they're expecting us to make a big move. It's like, fuck them. Like, I'm trying to win here. I don't care what these people say.
And this is like, I think the ultimate lesson I learned this season and my greatest mistake. And this is, again, advice for everyone. I'm going to monologue on this. You have to remember what LRGs are is LARPing. It's live action role playing.
LARPing.
It's just a LARP. Everyone's LARPing.
Yes.
And my LARP is talking about Karl Popper. And other people's LARP is, oh, I'm going to flip. I'm going to do all these fancy moves, and I don't want to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I think a lot of people, especially if they haven't done especially well before in a live game, they really have this idea in its mind of the kind of player they want to be. And they're going to take it because, again, it's just a live game. It's not for $1 million. If they want to be the kind of players who flips and doesn't work in a Paganing, they're going to do it. And I think people like Jabbar and Jordan had that in their mind at the very beginning of the merge, right? So this idea that you're going to persuade people from like a strategic point of view. It's like, look, I think you're in a good position, Jabbar or Jordan, if you even make the final 6 of this. It's nothing. They're there to LARP, right? There are these people who want to flip, I think, for the sake of flipping. And I believe and Lydia. I think Lydia's in there too. But and I think they did that. And this is a question I'd have to you two about that. What confused me is I actually think our 6 is unique. I don't know who's the final 3 with our 6. I don't know who's the first 2 to go. And I don't think anything, if you ask any of them, it's not clear.
I agree. And it was something I was going to potentially bring up later is J-Mac has been my winner pick since the beginning. Mm-hmm. But even though we see a lot of their really strong relationships, we still see J-Mac getting undercut like we did this week. Made it very clear she did not want you to go. But at the end of the day, have to cave to what people want. We're seeing all the unique relationships. We've seen J-Mac and Jordan. We've seen Jordan and Lydia. We've seen Jabbar and Lydia. We've seen all of these different connectivity, and we don't see anyone ever talk. Here's my hierarchy. Here's how I want it to go. Here's my final 2. It's going to make for a very interesting end game if these people still stick together.
No, go on, Coach.
Well, I was going to flip it back on you. Like, for who was your final 3? Like,
Oh, so like,
in a perfect world, who would have been like your optimum? If I like, because you brought up slingshotting someone to a win earlier,
yeah.
and for you, hey, no matter what, win and lose, this is the 3. Period.
If you asked me like pre-swap, I would have probably said Jordan and JMac. I felt very good with them. And then maybe post-swap, I was open to really anyone. Like the truth is, like it's so hard for me to say because I would have personally rewarded people who were loyal to me. If I felt like there's people who were consistently loyal to me and straight, I will support you. If I feel like you're wavering and you're doing like shady stuff behind my back, no, screw you. I'm not going to give you the win. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of making the final 3. But I truly was like open to a lot of things, and I thought my place in that alliance was I was like a goat or a potential goat. And I thought, like, use me for a vote, right? I knew people would be after JMac. I knew people would be after, like, someone like Jordan. I wasn't necessarily going to go against them, but at least I thought, if I'm perceiving this, I imagine other people are perceiving this too.
Okay.
It's so hard to say because, again, it was 4 votes down the line. We don't know the perception of Capoe to Pink. Like, there's so much there. And I think most people would have done something that would have benefited their game in the final 3. I think even if you were closer to people, when you get to that end, a lot of people change their minds on what they're going to do.
Because
so again, I think it was a mistake to flip on me, even today. But yeah, I think.
A little bit of spoilers. Are you wearing a fancy outfit like Ben on the jury? Or
I loved Ben's outfit. It was fantastic.
No, I'm sorry. No, that's a spoiler. No, I do not wear it. I don't think that it's not like we had like an endless supply of fancy outfits. Like I think Ben kind of monopolized them from production, but he looked fantastic.
So you, we get your torch being snuffed, and yes. you much like make another Marquesas reference. When Rob Mariano gets voted out of that, he basically turns into his real life self of like, I had so much fun. I hope everyone, enjoyed it. I was just doing this for a game, like this, that, and the other. And I felt like your exit confessional was pretty much the same of like, yeah, this is me now. I was out here trying to have fun. I was trying to play for the $1,000, which means I can do more of this. I can take charge in a lot of the stuff because at the end of the day, I miss out on 1,000. I like, as far as final words are concerned, I love when people watching that switch go off in someone's head of like, okay,
yes,
they're back to real life now and they enjoyed themselves and it was so much fun. And I hope people can appreciate what I brought to this.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And it's funny, like the production asked me like, okay, who's like a player you'd compare yourself to prior to playing? And I actually said Boston Rob, but only from Marquesas. I don't think it's going to work.
Okay, well.
I don't think it's going to work out for me. But yeah, like I'm there to have he's probably I'm wearing a plain Psycho-Pass shirt. Yeah. I'm there to like have fun, and I'm there to like I love conflict. I love confrontation. That's one of my favorite aspects of Survivor. And I'm very proud to say every season I've played, each time I've gotten into a confrontation with somebody. And that's just something I like to do. I think that's fun, right? And I think that, like, if you think it's ethical to lie to someone in a live game, why isn't it ethical to get in a confrontation with them, right? Like, I think it's a totally fair game. That's just what I like to do. I love debating. I love arguing. And I will use live games as an outlet for that. And I will continue to do it if I ever play other ones again. I want to do that. I want the conflict. And I think it's missing in modern day Survivor.
Well, and Tyler, I've said this all season. Tyler's the type of person I would love to be friends with in real life, and it would be the type of person I would hate to play with in a game. And I think that is, that's a testament. And there's a lot of people like that in this community where it's like, I love them as people. And I'm like, if I ever come across this person in a game, they gotta go, or at least I'll just, until I can get rid of them. And I think you're a prime example of that, of someone that like, you have a likable personality. Like, you do have screen presence. A lot of the best parts of this season have involved you in one way or the other. Like, one of my favorite moments going back to pre-merge is the Peter, you, Jabbar scene, which we've talked to 2 of the 3 people from that scene now, with you being here, and it was so funny and so uncomfortable, and I can only imagine being in that spot in everyone's shoes, and like, or also just as a spectator, just laughing at it, like, wow, these people are crazy.
Yeah.
And it's great that you said Rob Mariano from Marquesas, because like that is the vibe that you gave off. So I'm glad that I was able to, clock that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I love that moment. That was my favorite moment of the season. Was walking up to Peter and be like, "What are you doing? Like, what's going on here, man?" And like I get that that's not everyone's like cup of tea. Like some people think that's too far and stuff like that. And I think fair, right? Because it definitely hurts feelings. But I would remind those people, if they are not in favor of confrontation like that, a lot of people like to make like snarky or snide remarks behind people's backs in confessions and stuff. And I think that's totally okay. But I feel like to be consistent, you should say neither okay.
Yeah. Julia, any final thoughts on this tribal and or Tyler just in general? Any questions you want to?
The season's going to be worse off for it. That's just the truth.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be great. I think the true star of the season is Daniel. We always have to remember this. It's only possible because of people like Daniel, because of these people who put all this time and effort. I'm just a very small, annoying piece that is added into the season, and ultimately it's going to be a great time out there. And I loved chatting with you guys, and I loved you guys who are a part of this too, right? You do this every time, and I think it's really fun. And I like it when when Coach would say things like, "I wouldn't work with Tyler if I was out there," but I think push him to shove.
It's okay. It's okay because I would, and we'd have a confrontation, then we go to the end. That's
Exactly. I appreciate that.
We don't need him.
Tyler, any final words from you?
Yeah, my advice: don't make the same mistake out there. You're playing with LARPers. Always remember that. You are playing with LARPers. This is not like real Survivor. And then hopefully you're not going to end up like me with their torch nest.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys would. I'm sure you guys would kill it.
Yeah, J-Mac, look, I'm not the first person to hear and glaze J-Mac. J-Mac is awesome. J-Mac is like one of the coolest people I know, regardless of Survivor. So yeah, I would love to be able to eat any season with her and Julia. Julia's been awesome too.
Well, we'll get Julia out of quasi-retirement in the next year or so, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, Tyler, thank you so much for joining. I was really appreciative that you reached out. Julia's right. Like your screen presence is going to be missed, but we'll have you on the jury. And I'm very curious to see how you go about Final Tribal, because that'll be your last moment to beat Tyler the character again. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you to everyone in the chat, as always, for continuing to tune in. We're over the halfway mark, are we? Probably.
Yeah.
Next, scheduling wise, next week we are doing this on Wednesday
or Friday, depending on.
We'll probably do Wednesday. Julia graduates next Saturday, so we're probably going to do.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
We'll probably do Wednesday because Friday, no, you need to be with the family. So we'll be back next Wednesday. Looking forward to a great rest of the season. Thank you all again, and we will see you soon.